Speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity.
We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. As if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy.
Silence! The great and powerful Oz knows why you have come.
You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature.
Don't give yourselves to brutes. Men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts.
And now, Reality Rants with Jason Bermas.
And who loves you? And who do you love?
Good morning, everybody. I am pumped up. It is Reality Rants with Jason Bermas. redvoicemedia.com/Jason for the second uncensored hour. Although, if you're not a premium subscriber, you're going to get a free second hour anyway, because 2 weeks ago we did a broadcast and we released them for free. So at least go to redvoicemedia.com, check out all the free stuff where you're going to get news you're not getting anywhere else. And this is, in my opinion, a huge story no one else seems to be talking about. In fact, I almost went live over the weekend, but I was a little burnt out. As a lot of you guys know, I also have been substitute hosting over at American Media Periscope for Making Sense of the Madness. If you are a Rockfin subscriber, ton of that stuff nowhere else. Not going to find it on my Rumble. Definitely not going to find it on my YouTube because it's just too risky. But you can find it over on Rockfin. So at least give a follow over there. And basically, everything's premium for a couple days and then it goes free. It's even less time than over at Red Voice. So there's a bunch of stuff, Making Sense of the Madness. Some really good interviews, by the way, with people like Trevor Loudon, who talks about the China angle a lot, where, you know, I put him on the spot a little bit and say, hey, aren't these things beyond nation states? And really, China as a nation state is just the model. He certainly doesn't feel that way, but we had the conversation, really good conversation. Also had a conversation with the gentleman who wrote The New Abnormal, The Rise of the Biosecurity State. And to bring that in, they brought you a bot army of fake doctors that got retweets like you wouldn't believe. And Jason Bermas can't get that kind of retweet action or like action. I promise you that. And no one seems to be reporting on it. Now, I did some digging because this is the story right here. I actually put it in the chat over at YouTube. These doctors pushed masking, lockdowning on Twitter. Turns out they don't exist. San Francisco standard. So right away, I want to know, is this a startup? Because I've never heard of the San Francisco standard. Is this a fake news site? What are their politics, etc.? And you go to the website, and it's actually, like, if you look at it, it's based in a lot of local media. Okay? Pretty straight news. Pretty straight news. So it's not a satire site. It is a recent upstart, and it is funded by a billionaire, Michael Moritz. I have no idea what this guy's about. There he is right there. This gentleman right here. Sir Michael Johnson Moritz is a Welsh billionaire venture capitalist, philanthropist, author, and former journalist. For me, somebody like that probably has just seen San Francisco go to shit. Okay, because this is a like March of 2021 is when they open their doors. So they're pretty new. They're pretty new. This article is a powerhouse of an article, and I wouldn't be bringing it to you and focusing on it this much. And I'm going to read it top to bottom because it's that big a deal. unless it was that big a deal. Period. And you give props to journalists, no matter what outlets they're on, when they do a good job. That's why we go to the Signature Reduction Army, America's Secret Military, over at Newsweek. Don't necessarily love the narratives pushed over at Newsweek, certainly. Great article. A great piece of journalism. They're still out there. Alan McLeod over at Mint Press has been doing outstanding work on the Muskernuts. And by the way, myself, I believe Derek Brose, James Corbett, Ryan Christian of The Last American Vagabond, and Whitney Webb are going to be having a roundtable Thursday night. I'm not sure where it's airing. I'm sure I'm going to record it on my end as well. On Elon. Just pros, cons, everything that's out there. But you wonder why this story isn't out there. Now, look, I don't even know that this has really been covered in the alternative media. I've seen the screenshots. I think the screenshot / link to the article caught my attention, and I gave it a retweet here and a post over on Facebook, maybe Thursday, Friday latest, okay? So I don't know if there's anyone in the alternative media that's covered this. Certainly not in the mainstream. Haven't seen it anywhere. Should be a huge story, okay? So I expect Tucker to get a whiff of this eventually, maybe even feature it tonight if he didn't feature it Friday. I don't think he did. I'm pretty sure I watched the show. But here we go. We're going to read it. So this is Matthew Kupfer. I don't know much about him. I'm sure I'll be following him on Twitter after this great piece. Last month, Dr. Robert Honeyman lost their sister to COVID. They wrote about it on Twitter and received dozens of condolences, over 4,000 retweets, and 43,000 likes. You know what? How much my Twitter does on that? It doesn't. It doesn't happen there. No. Excuse me. Exactly 1 month later, on December 12th, Honeyman wrote that another tragedy had befallen their family. Sad to announce that my husband has entered a coma after being in the hospital with you-know-what. The doctor is unsure if he will come out. They tweeted, "This year has been the toughest of my life. Losing my sister to this virus. This is the first time in my life I don't see light at the end of the tunnel." Again, the condolences and well wishes rolled in, but there was a problem. Honeyman wasn't real. Let me repeat that. Honeyman wasn't real. The transgender doctor of sociology and feminist studies with a keen interest in poetry, who used they-them pronouns, was, in fact, a stock photo described on Deposit Photos as a royalty-free image site as smiling, happy, handsome Latino man outside. Headshot portrait. Their supposedly comatose husband, Dr. Patrick C. Honeyman, was also fake. His Twitter photo had been stolen from an insurance professional in Wayne, Indiana. So there is Honeyman right here on the left, and the dead husband of Honeyman. The transgender weird studies major something or other. Okay. The two fake doctors, whose accounts urged extreme caution about you-know-what, were part of a network of at least 4 fake accounts that touted their ties to the LGBTQ plus community, vocally advocated for mask wearing and social distancing, and dished out criticism to those they felt were not taking the pandemic seriously. This is how far it's gone, folks. The Honeymans could not be reached for comment as they do not exist. At publication time, Robert Honeyman's account was no longer active. I got to tell you, I like this person's style. It's good stuff. This is good stuff right here. The fake doctors were uncovered by Joshua Gutterman Trannon, a self-described gay writer pursuing a Master's of Fine Arts at Bennington College. He saw Robert Honeyman's tweet about their husband being in a coma, noticed people he followed and also followed them, and thought that they might be part of the LGBTQ plus academic community. But after 10 minutes of Googling, Gutterman Trannon concluded that Robert Honeyman's photo was a stock image, and their biography stretched boundaries of believability. An academic who left no traces on academic websites and had 2 family members to COVID in late 2022, despite masking and distancing. And let me just stop it here. This just shows you how far it's gone because, again, this is happening in late 2022. You know, that's the end of the year, guys. You know what I'm saying? The narrative's already kind of been crushed in a lot of ways, at least to anybody that's paying attention. But still, what? They got to reinforce the narratives, reinforce the Bernaysian talking points, and, you know, this is still happening. 40,000 plus likes, 4,000 retweets. The character looked like liberal Mad Libs, Gutterman Trennan said. I love Mad Libs. I'm a self-identified leftist, and I understand that people have a lot of different identities, but it felt concocted in the lab about how many identities and horrible experiences we put on one person, he said. And so this shows you that that is indeed a stock photo of Honeyman. Honeyman. By the way, get the thumbs up. Can we get 100 thumbs up over on YouTube, guys? Let's get going. It's early in the morning. Throughout the pandemic, Twitter has been an important, if complicated, platform. Medical experts have used it to speak directly to the public about you-know-what and to criticize policies that they feel don't do enough to protect people from the disease. But Twitter has also been a site of disinformation and proactive claims that are based in fact or scientific knowledge but lack context. Now, hold on. This is where we really may disagree. You look at this, and at the highest levels of the White House, they were censoring. I have a tweet on that right now. That's the internal documents. Still, things are blacked out. I don't like that things are still blacked out, right? Individuals' names, et cetera, et cetera. But it shows the White House was taken out at the highest levels. And a lot of this stuff, you talk about context all day. We had Bernaysian talking points, hate and lies that were establishment. And then you had people analyzing the source documents and putting those out and being banned from the platform, while you have a bot army that probably continues to this day that are doing shiznizzle like thizzle. Okay? That's what's going on. All right, so let's keep going here, right here. As the pandemic has dragged on, governments have lifted restrictions and people have shed their masks. Most of the burden of charting a path in the new normal has fallen on individuals. And public-facing experts like UCSF's Bob Wachter, Bob Wachter, and Monica Gandhi have become important sources of advice. I have no idea who they are. I don't know that they are my sources of advice. But as the iconic New Yorker cartoon states, on the internet, nobody knows you're a dog, or a fake doctor, for that matter. The Honeymans offer one of the most blatant examples of this. It is unclear who created the 2 doctors, but their bios and personas signpost identities meant to appeal to a certain type of Twitter Denzian liberal, pro-diversity, and concerned about COVID, or meant to provoke the opposite of that type of person. See, again, let's stir up the pot, or let's promote the agenda. Let's do both at the same time. We love it. We love it. We love the fact that we've created a post-truth world. That's what it's up to, okay? By the way, I've got this Jimmy Fallon clip promoting the new variant to the B-52s, which we're not going to play on the first hour, but we're certainly going to play in the second hour. And it's cringe to the top. Jimmy, your voice is fantastic. Jimmy, fellow upstate New Yorker, right? I know you're from that Syracuse area, Saratoga, I think. I think he's from Saratoga, and it's got the Scratchola guys. Saratoga, love it. Love Saratoga, okay? But in this day and age, I'm going to take a little tangent here, and we'll keep going because we are going to read this whole thing. It's a fantastic article, okay? I was watching Jay Dyer over on Rockfin, by the way, if you are a premium subscriber. He's got an interview with Jamie Kennedy, the comedian, actor, the Jamie Kennedy Experiment, huge show back in the day, as well as obviously in the Scream series and a bunch of other films. So they're talking, right? They're getting into this, and basically Jamie Kennedy says, Hollywood's done. Why would you want to be a whore to corporate narratives and agendas? Like, why? For instance, I do the Clay Clark Reawaken things. And there's always somebody sitting there that is trying to get like a job on Fox News or this. Who would want to do that? Look, unless you get the setup like the Tuckins has right now. And who knows, maybe the Tuckins is only allowed to do what he's allowed to do for certain reasons. I don't know. But unless you get the all-out, no-holds-barred, do what you want to do, say what you want to say, show, why would you bend the knee to these people? I'm living proof you can make a living. I'm not wrapped in diamonds and gold, right? I drive an old-school Ford Fiesta around the country. Fine with me. I care less. I could care less. And he says, look, the days of Hollyweird are pretty much over. You don't have to be crowned by these people. You can make your own way. That's the beauty of the decentralization. And he's right. Now, these narrative pushers and controllers that empower this type of bot army also are trying to discourage people like me and make it harder and harder and harder. That's why I can't, make money on YouTube anymore for 3 years. I have a limited reach here. By the way, can we get 100 thumbs up? Can we get if we got 5,000 views on this video on YouTube, that's kind of a huge video at this point for me. That's how much they've degraded the searching via Google. But we've got Rumble. This could get anywhere from 1 to 5 to 10,000 if it really got pushed. If it gets embedded in something like the Gateway Pundit, then wow, then it goes even more. But it's the bits and pieces, right? Because it gets a few thousand here, it gets a few thousand there, it gets a few hundred listens on Podbean, a few, 100 or 1,000 over on Rockfin, and it gets out there. And somebody sees it, and then hopefully it gets reported on a bigger outlet. This is a big story that nobody's talking about, and I guarantee it's not an isolated incident. So let's continue. Remember, the Honeymans offer one of the most blatant examples of this. It is unclear, again, who created it, right? But they certainly have this whole narrative, okay? Both doctors present themselves as members of the LGBTQ plus community. Robert displayed the trans and Ukrainian flags in their Twitter name. Patrick had a rainbow flag in his bio. Robert wrote openly about suffering from MPX, an infectious disease that caused San Francisco to declare a state of emergency earlier this year and had largely spread among men who have sex with men. Geez, you can never say that when there's those type of outbreaks. You can never actually say that. Don't believe what the media has been sharing. It's a horrible disease that has me bedridden, they tweeted in July. They also claim to have been a victim of a transphobic attack in October. Isn't that great? Spreading the love, spreading the hate, spreading the narrative. Here's what I'd like you to do. I was thinking about this the last time I traveled. I had myself a sip of coffee as you thumbs me up over at YouTube. Go traveling anywhere in the country or the world. And by traveling, I mean get on. You can get on a Carnival, right? You can get on a boat, hundreds, maybe thousands of people, and have all these stops at different places. You can just go traveling and fly, and go to the big airports, Chicago O'Hare, LaGuardia, JFK, LAX, the big guys, Dallas International. You tell me as you look around how many people in the trans community there are. And people say, well, you're being a bigot, Jason. They just blend in. Come on. We all have eyeballs, right? How often does that happen? I'd say almost never. And yet, you've got fake personas everywhere projecting that you're a bigot if you point out this is really a transhuman movement. That's what it is. That's what it's always been. Take away parental rights, give autonomy to children, the most influential people throughout. I mean, it's not even debatable that children, we used to call it trends or fads. We're not allowed to do that anymore. There's no such thing as a trend or a fad. The snap bracelet didn't exist. Trolls weren't big for a time, right? Come on, let's grow up. But we can't grow up. We're not allowed to be grown-ups. We've been trained to be eternal children, believing in Santa Claus-like fairy tales of saviors behind the scenes or political leaders. My Arnis. And so, an agenda that is clearly there, that has no basis in reality. Again, go take the travel. Tell me. Count them off. But that's what's everywhere now. And then it's with every other horrifying agenda, and it's getting thousands of retweets, etc. Jason Bermas, if I can get a few hundred likes, that's huge. Like 100 retweets. Whoa. Another account associated with the group, Dr. Gerald Fisher, displayed rainbow, trans, and Ukrainian flags next to his name and described himself as an ally for all in the LGBTQ plus community. Hashtag wear a mask. Fleischer's account has since been taken down. This is a network of these people. A fourth account, Dr. Steve S.T.E. Vili, who claimed an affiliation with the University of Antwerp, described himself as an LGBTQ plus ally and a proud mask wearer. All four doctors had a few things in common. They created their accounts during the pandemic. Fisher's account dated to 2019, but his earliest visible tweet was from July of 2022. The doctors also frequently interacted with one another. Fisher's first tweets were, in fact, a retweet, a quote tweet, and a response to Dr. Robert Honeyman. Okay, so this is what you do. You create like 5, 10, 20 accounts, all you, all right, on these different emails, and that's what you spend your day doing. Weird. Robert Honeyman claimed that Fisher, who said he was suffering from post-COVID brain fog, was the sharpest individual they met at university. The two doctors sent greetings to each other's family. I mean, you look at this. Oh, he was the sharpest individual I met at university. Hope your condition clears soon. Sending love from the whole family. Only went and put my coffee back in the fridge and took a carton of milk to my desk before a virtual meeting with a student this morning. Easy to laugh about it now, but brain fog is I can't even do it. These people. Now you're going to read the rest of it because I don't want to click on it. All four accounts urged caution about you-know-what. They also amplified the voices of other Twitter users calling on the public to mask, do this, and socially distance. At times, they criticized policies that they felt undermined pandemic safety and individuals who they believed did not take COVID seriously enough. But as Twitter users responded to Gutterman Trannon's thread on the Honeymans, they also discovered the accounts expressing views that appeared implausible. Come on, China, stop protesting. I wish we had similar lockdown measures here. You can't make this up. He wrote it November 27th. This is like Thanksgiving time, folks. This Thanksgiving, he's like, man, why are we more like China? Tens of thousands of likes, thousands of retweets. They also claimed to have been a consultant who helped to make the character Velma a lesbian in the new Scooby-Doo movie. Oh my God. Just when it couldn't get any better. He's like, finally allowed to disclose that I was one of the many consultants for Audrey Harrison and the studio. I'm glad we made this a reality. It was a great experience, one I hope to repeat someday. Enjoy the film. I mean, it's out of control. The Standard was unable to establish who created the 4 fake doctors, but perhaps the most alarming aspect of their non-existence online is that it is also unclear why they were created. Gutterman Tannen wondered about the motivation behind them. Is this someone who is well-intentioned but perhaps has a lot of anxiety about COVID, and this is a way for them to act out those anxieties, he asked? Or is this something more nefarious, where someone thinks creating accounts like this is a way to point them and say, look how crazy the liberals are? See, I don't think this is a parody account at all. I really don't. If it was a parody account, someone would have already taken credit for it. As he watches his initial tweet about the Honeymans go viral, Gutterman Tannen is philosophical about the situation. He believes people are responding so strongly to his discovery because we all know that these kind of accounts exist, but we seldom delve deeply into whether the person tweeting is actually authentic. We've just accepted that disinformation is an essential part of how Twitter works, he said. But as Twitter users marveled over the 4 fake doctors, at least one person wasn't having it. Disgusting to see the accusations being thrown my way. It truly is incredible to see how good people can switch up on you in the blink of an eye, he tweeted on December 13th. That age-old rings true. This is Dr. Steve. The only thing they love more than a hero is a hero to fall. Fall, die trying. He says, rage on, Dr. Steve. And that's one of the fake accounts. So that's interesting. But no, again, I think it's actually worse. I don't think they are parody accounts at all. I think that if you pull the layers back, you're going to find that this is in a large part, signature reduction inside the military's secret undercover army. Then this still hasn't really broke through. Who's covering this? No, nobody. And it's only expanded, guaranteed. That's what it is when you've got ex-FBI, ex-NSA, and ex-CIA networks inside of these social media companies. And then some of them just have totally made up personas. Those are like the real black ops guys. Some of them are just assets that get approached and that are utilized inside. They didn't know they were getting involved. The huge deal. Huge article. And largely ignored. Really, that should be focused upon. Because I don't think that's trolling, man. I really do not. I think that if you look back, I guarantee that it's continuing to happen, obviously. And it is part of a wider spectrum psychological warfare operation against the American people. Now, there's a new strain out there. They're saying like 3 out of the 4 cases in New York. I kind of want to go over it. I think I'm going to leave it for the second hour. I also think I'm going to leave this World Economic Forum clip talking about the mRNA technology to the second hour. But what I can do now, and I think that I'll mute this, or at least bring the volume way down, because I hate the background music. And this is kind of an evolution of the DARPA robot and what they're publicly putting out there through MIT and Boston Dynamics. I promise you, behind the scenes, there's a lot more going on. But this kind of takes you from the war of terror, the big dog, through a ton of the different iterations of what we've seen with these robotics, okay? So there is the big dog in action, very slippery, but can make itself up terrain. A big deal back in the day. Multiple terrains. Then there's the Rise, the bug-like creature. Can you imagine what they have now? First of all, the drones are usually A-okay, but when you're in close quarters, something like that is big. And this is showing you Pet Man, okay? That's the cheetah. And the Cheetah has gone wireless, by the way. This is Rex. A lot of interesting types of robotics. This is why, DARPA watches nature videos, because, they're trying to rebuild those things. Look at that. That's pretty impressive. Basically a vehicle that can flip around, no big deal. Big time terrain. This is one of those drones that can, exactly, that can fling itself up. Oh, the Wildcat. Look at that thing. And now, look at the evolution of that thing. Oh, and there we go. There's Atlas. Good old Atlas. Atlas jogging around, just running. Hey-oh! Jump a jump. Jump a jump. Now, again, this is what they're showing you. Now, there are other videos out there where obviously the dexterity is not that good. And they're showing you the best of the best. I can't imagine how many runs that took. But just the fact that that could happen is incredible. Just really wild. And again, that's old school now. There we go. Here's the obstacle course. Oh, hey, yeah. And whether or not all this is actually legit, because obviously in this day and age, if they wanted to, put these on strings or add a little CGI, would it be impossible to do? No. Absolutely not. Yeah, these are the robots that I had not seen a lot at all. These are handle bots. These things look fierce because they're rolling right at you. And obviously, yeah, you could probably knock them down, but with those digits on the top, you see how they're doing like one side and the other and going downstairs easily. I feel like even if you knocked it over, it could pick itself up really quick. And then some terrain right there. Hadn't seen this one. And again, the ones on wheels, kind of concerning. They're all kind of concerning, right? They got hops. Yeah, there you go. Nothing frightening about that death machine. And then this is Spot. And they show you kind of like those first iterations of Spot. This is it picking itself up. You can buy one for like 70 plus grand now with an operating system by Android. That's the yellow Spot dog. Purchasable, everybody. And again, you'll see it. We've done plenty of videos in the past on that. And by the way, the dinosaur head like attachment there, it's removable, right? So that's the modern iteration of it. And there's all sorts of mount pieces. And the idea that eventually this thing or something like it won't be weaponized and utilized domestically, that's the direction they want to move in. In fact, you talk about California, San Francisco area, March of the Robots. They did this, and people said, you know what, we don't want it. They did it in New York City during the COVID-19 84 nightmare. So isn't that nice? The raptor-like head, there's the attachments I'm talking about. And yeah, we'll open up doors. This is what's commercially available. Can you imagine what has been worked on? We might even get back into that NASA document and finish it up. We talked about the cyborg stuff and the swarm stuff and the drone stuff. So there it is. That's the end of that one right there. We got other videos coming up in the second hour. But that's what's publicly available. Automation is coming. Automation is coming. In many cases, it's here. It's here. And that's what the 5G network is. So many people, I think, have misnomers about what the 5G stuff is going to take us into. And there's very much a possibility that it could network into things like the fourth industrial revolution, especially when you're talking about implantable biomimetic devices, right? Modern day sensors and monitors for your heart, your liver, your entire endocrine and nervous systems, really. I mean, you see what DARPA has developed, and we've often shown that to you, but it could go farther. The first use point of 5G, when it's really networked in the manner they want it to be networked, will be mass automation, will be the end of the trucking industry, which is coming at a rapid pace, will be really the end of your travel. Because once that's in place and they make it law that you have to have one of these electric cars with kill switches, then you are basically geographically bound to what you are allotted via your carbon system, your social credit score system. What credits do you have? How important are you? As they demonize human biology more and more and more and more and more. And that's the reality. Okay, and that's something that needs to be discussed. All right, let's hit a couple more stories here. I was really upset about this. I didn't realize I'd done a review of what I thought was season 2 of Inside Job. And it's a show I kind of like, everybody. By the way, over 300 watching over on YouTube. Can we get 200 thumbs up? And the creator of the show, and by the way, worked on Gravity Falls. I think one of the producers is the main guy from Gravity Falls. Smart show, fun show. Lots of twists and turns. Is it poking fun at quote-unquote conspiracy theories? Sure, but it's also showing how much they're in the zeitgeist. And it's really got its moments of clarity surrounding those things, surrounding what's out there. And at the end of the day, it's more like a, father-daughter comedy. That's what it is. It's a workplace comedy, but it's also a father-daughter comedy. Really fun show. They released, I guess, season 1 in 2 parts, 18 altogether, 10 the first time around, 8 in the second. I hope somebody else picks it up. I really do. I think it's well worthwhile. Any other streaming service / cable network would be really smart. In fact, HBO should pick it up. This is one of those shows that if people forget, now that the Family Guy has been around forever and, is a staple over at Fox still. I used to watch that stuff religiously, by the way. Big animation guy. Simpsons is my favorite show of all time. And I haven't for the last 3 or 4 years. But when I did, I watched a lot of it. And the Family Guy was canceled at one point. Not because of ratings, but because of content at the time. They felt like it was too edgy. I think it was off the air for about 2 or 3 years, and people realized in syndication it was huge, so they had to bring it back, and they did. So, this has happened before. You look at something like American Dad has moved around from network to network to network. If Netflix canceled this would be a huge pickup for Adult Swim. In fact, I'd argue it could be something that could air after Rick and Morty and maintain that large audience instead of just playing 2 Rick and Mortys. It would be a back-to-back Sunday powerhouse, Netflix. That's just me. I'm just throwing that right out there. So if you haven't seen it, they not only, in the second season, they not only poked fun at Alex Jones, but they did it directly. And they took a couple hard jabs at him. But I'll tell you what, their impersonation of Jones was actually pretty funny. Pretty spot on, actually. So here's something again, rather new. Haven't seen it covered in many places. We're going to go down the line because, unfortunately, disturbing things like this really do exist. And, whether or not you believe in the occult or Satanism, etc., there seem to be a lot of people that really do believe it. Or at least take part in its practices. To social climb, if you will. Especially the occult aspects of it. But we talk about this Gaia religion. You could talk about Satanism. You could talk about Pan also. There's all these different little flavors of it. Pan, the goat god of mischief. That kind of looks like Baphomet. Just a little bit. Okay? You look at these things. And growing up, again, when I was a kid, going to a lot of church and hearing a lot about satanic this and satanic that, and that's the devil, and this is the devil, blah, 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 blah. And then going into like middle school and high school and dismissing most of it, you were always thinking, yeah, the people that are into that are the the wayward kids that don't have any friends, the goth kids wearing the makeup, whatever. Not, kids that couldn't get girlfriends or dates or whatever, weren't taking life the right way. It's kind of a goof. But then, myself, I found out about the Franklin scandal, okay? And some of the darkest things you will ever read occur via that and the Finders, allegedly. Very well documented book. Really changed my whole view on the whole subject. And that was the predecessor to that. That's the Franklin scandal. There is the Franklin cover-up by John DeCamp. John DeCamp no longer with us. Nick Bryant, author of that, friend of the show. Somebody I should reach out to and get as a guest. See if he can get up early. We'll probably have to do a pre-record with Nick, but big deal. So we've covered the Utah case here. Big case. Lots of allegations being thrown around. Who knows what's true and what's not, but connected to what? Powerful individuals within the community and within the government. Right? That's all I'm going to talk about. If you want big time details, Derek Bros, The Last American Vagabond, has a series on it. Gets into the Mormon Church. Or you can just go check out my numerous interviews with Derek Bros regarding the abuse. So, when I see something like this, it's not isolated, but it's not amplified. And there seem to be levels to this and networks to this, right? So, whether or not this is just something that somebody wanted to do to scare the children while he was doing it, or that they believed it, I believe it happened. I don't think this is a hoax. A satanic pedophile ring forced children to kill animals and make a Ouija board to call spirits and demons, a court has heard. 11 people are accused of being involved in the alleged child sex ring, which is said to have involved witchcraft, attempted murder, and serious sexual violence. 7 men and 4 women are facing a 14-page indictment over alleged crimes said to have taken place between January 2010 and March 2020 at a number of addresses at Glasgow. Some charges claim the alleged victims, 2 young girls and a young boy, were forced to kill animals and made to use a Ouija board or similar object to call spirits and demons. One of the young girls was said to have been shut in a microwave, a fridge, an oven, and a freezer in an attempt to kill her by 6 members of the group, according to the charges. Pretty wild. Prosecutors allege that Lane Owens, 43, Elaine Lannery, 38, Leslie Williams, 38, Paul Brannon, 40, and John Clark, 46, as well as the late Stephen McHenry, 55, also pursued the girl while wearing the mask of the devil, blowing smoke into her face after taking drugs. There were also claims group members did clap, cheer, and verbally encourage, as well as recorded on videos the youngsters being sexually abused. The accused are further alleged to have forced the children to take part in satanic seances where they were drinking blood and eating a heart. One of the girls allegedly threatened with being sent to Turkey with a male stranger, while a boy is alleged to have been put in a bath filled with blood. Really dark stuff. Really, and you don't want to think that this can happen. You don't want to think that people are this evil. But this is the thing that I don't understand. Every once in a while, somebody escapes some guy's dungeon, right? These dungeons really do exist. These individuals have them. They've sexually abused this person for years, sometimes over a decade. Darkest things you can imagine. And yet, on the surface, they live this quote-unquote normal life, and no one suspects them. So when you hear about this stuff again and again and again, it's hard not to take it seriously. And you never really hear about it in depth via the mainstream media, but it being mocked. But we stick to what we can prove. We stick to what's in the mainstream. We stick to the cases out there that have gone public, so we can bring a certain sense of credibility to this. And by the way, just under 200 thumbs up over at YouTube, 300 plus watching. Can we get to 250? Can we do that? Big stories today over on Reality Rants via redvoicemedia.com. And remember, redvoicemedia.com/Jason. Come on over. $1 for the first week, $10 for the first month and months beyond, or lock it in at 100, save yourself 2 months. You get a bunch of other great coverage. Right now, Alicia Powell covering the January 6th trials like nobody else. I know she spent some time with Joe Biggs yesterday. There's going to be some big stories coming out via the Gateway Pundit as well, but you can see some exclusive interviews over at redvoicemedia.com. Another reason to come over, redvoicemedia.com/uncensored, redvoicemedia.com/Jason. Lock it in, support the broadcast, watch it live, or just come over to the Podbean and listen to the rest of the show free. Again, free. We give it away free. There's an RSS feed. It's on Spotify and stuff. So if you don't want to get the Podbean app, I'm sure you can find it there as well, at least after the fact. We give it away every day. And then you can come over to redvoicemedia.com/Jason, keep scrolling down, and then you can find the unlocked, uncensored second hour from a couple weeks ago. So let's keep going down the line. Again, just unbelievable stuff. The boy was allegedly forced to stab a bougie, whatever that is, to death by members of the group who are said to have worn cloaks and devil horns. Mr. Owens, Lannery, Williams, Brandon Clark, Marion Gallagher, Scott Forbes, Barry Watson, Mark Carr, Richard Gatchigan. I'm glad they're naming names here. And Leona Lang deny the charges they face. Maureen Godice, Robert Brown, James McLean, and Douglas Grenigan are also mentioned as being involved in a number of the charges, but they are also now dead, according to the court papers. That's interesting that so many of these people that are alleged are dead. When you look at the age range to this, it looks like people in their mid to late 30s to mid 50s. And to have that number, 4 people gone. Interesting. At a hearing at the High Court in Glasgow on Friday, again, this is just happening, Judge Lord Beckett estimated the full trial could take up to 7 weeks, with several of the defense lawyers agreeing this was realistic. The judge told the court, there are so many people in the case, there could be an unusual level of disruption. You think? Advocate Depute Kath Harper estimated the Crown case alone would last up to 3 weeks. None of the accused were present at Friday's hearing. Several defense lawyers raised concerns over a video posted on social media in relation to the trial hours before the case was called. Let's see. Gary Allen KC described the content as accusatory and having derogatory terms directed towards the accused. He said was potentially prejudicial. That's why we're not doing that here. That's why we're reading the mainstream article, and maybe even we'll get the document, the indictment, the court case, and read that. Those things are really dark. It's a 14-page indictment, and I'm sure we're getting the cliff notes here, but we're just reporting on it. That's all we're doing here. I just want to make that extremely clear. We're very, very careful. I try to be. Brian McConaughey, KC, told the court, we need to speak to this person and tell them to stop what they are doing. There will be some future video uploaded. Interesting. Lord Beckett responded to the lawyer's concerns, saying the Crown has the resources to tackle this, and I would encourage the Crown to do so. Miss Owens and Miss Lannery of Thornlife Bank, Renfrewshire, face claims they and 15 other adults repeatedly raped the 3 children. Mr. Brannon, Mr. Gatchigan, Mr. Carr, Mr. Clarks, Mr. Forbes, and Mr. Watson are accused of exposing themselves and performing sex acts on a child while others cheered. Miss Lannery, Leslie Williams, Miss Lang, and Miss Gallagher of Maryhill, Glasgow allegedly did clap and cheer and verbally encourage the conduct. So I guess 4 of them didn't physically abuse the kids, but were there as it happened. Mr. Brown, Mr. Goody, and Mr. Henry were also accused of rape, but all 3 are now deceased. So weird. 2 men, James McLean and Douglas Gatchigan, who are both also now deceased, also said to have raped the older of the 2 girls in separate incidents at various homes in Glasgow. They are claimed to have acted with Mr. Owens and Mr. Watson's Mount Vernon, Glasgow, Mr. Brennan and Mr. Clark, both from Clydebank, Forbes of the city's townhead, and Mr. McHenry. Wild stories today. Wild stories. As well as 16 people named in court papers, the charges also refer to an unknown person in relation to an alleged assault on the boy. It is claimed the suspect injured him to the point where his life was in danger, along with Mr. Owens and Mr. Lannery, Mr. Brennan, and Miss Gallagher. Court papers allege that he did punch, strike, and slap him and hit him with a book, toys, and a lighter. So we might have to read this indictment. Obviously, the quoted sections are part of that. They are also claimed to have chased him, pulled down his trousers and pants, and struck him in the bottom before putting him in a bath filled with a liquid they said was blood. It adds they did push his head and body under the liquid and held him there, restricting his breathing. This is just tough. It's tough to even think about. Because like when I'm reading this, I'm thinking to myself, a group of faceless adults, because I don't know what they look like, just arms, holding down a young boy in a red liquid that may or may not be blood in a tub, trying to drown him. Pretty tough, like not the visual I need in the morning. But, again, I want to put it out there because you're not going to see this tonight on CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. Isn't happening. The group is also alleged to have made him drink alcohol and consume drugs to the point where his life was in danger. Owens, Lannery, Williams, Brandon, Cratchkin, Lang, Gallagher, Carr, Clark, Watson, Brown, Goody, and Mr. Henry stand accused of hitting the girl on the head and body parts with objects, which include a pot. The charges also allege they ran a wheelchair into her legs, put a polythene bag over her head and body, and restricted her breathing. The case was continued to the full trial hearing in September. So who knows where this goes? It looks like we're going to be waiting another 7 to 8 months before we hear anything else about it. I hope it doesn't fall down the memory hole. Again, brand new story, January 7th, 2023. Something that you're probably not going to hear too much in the mainstream, okay? So let's go down the line here. We got one more story I think we're going to cover, and then we're going to make the transition over to the premium. She was going to confiscate it, and that's when he shot. This is an unbelievable story in Virginia, and why am I bringing it up? How does a 6-year-old get a gun in a school? This is apparently the parent right here, Brittany Gregory, and this is the teacher who was shot with life-threatening injuries, apparently an art teacher. Now, I know that these things sometimes happen in the home. And when they happen in the home, again, the parents, especially when you're talking about a 6-year-old, are at full responsibility. How are you not keeping that gun in a place where that 6-year-old's never going to touch it? Obviously. That's obvious. But to get a 6-year-old, my God, a 6-year-old, to have a weapon like this in a school, pull it out, and the teacher go confiscate it and then get shot is wild. And of course, this will fuel the fire of what? of gun confiscation, of regulation, etc. It puts a black eye on the Second Amendment. I am beyond that you got a 6-year-old kid that's handling a gun in the first place, that brings it to school, and that shoots a teacher. I mean, big time parental fail there. I mean, she was going to confiscate it, and that's when he shot. So I don't want to get too much into this, other than obviously the kid can't go to jail at 6 years old. Just so many failures, maybe even of our society. Like, what is your kid watching at 6 years old where they're shooting anyway? I just don't get it. That's not something that I'm putting out there for little kids. You know, even when you, like, I really enjoyed, at least for my nieces, and they started coming around, I think it was like 6 and 8, the Odd Squad. If anybody knows what the Odd Squad is. And the Odd Squad, you know, they're kids, they're detectives, they're on adventures. And not a lot of realistic-based violence. A lot of comedy, a lot of goofiness, and most importantly to me, integrating math and reading skills. You know, the basics you used to learn in school into the show. That's the kind of thing you want your 6-year-old to be watching and having access to. What you don't want is more adult things where guns are glorified somehow, that a kid has access, 6-year-old has access to a handgun, and then ends up bringing it to school and shooting their teacher. Just one of the wildest stories out there. Who knows who's going to cover that one? I expect that will get coverage in the mainstream, especially with people that are, trying to promote, gun confiscation and regulation, etc. But then you look at it, it doesn't really fit the narrative. You know, you've got what appears to be a 6-year-old black child shooting a young white teacher, right? So maybe because of identity politics, you won't hear about it much in the States. Again, the Post covered it. It's worth noting. This is where I let the producers know that we were going to go over to the second hour. We're going to end this stream, and we're going to cover Jimmy Fallon and his variant song to the B-52s. It's over the top. And it's funny, like, so many people, want to go with the one eye club, and now they got me. Oh, he did the one eye thing, right? And the guy's like dancing, and he covers one of his eyes, while doing it. And everybody's got that whole, everybody's Illuminati. Illuminati. Don't get me wrong. The one eye symbolism is there, et cetera, et cetera. Not everybody is Illuminati. So we're going to go over that. We're going to go over the new strain and the fear-mongering, and then the World Economic Forum and their plan to genomically take hold of the entire species. And when I say they, the predator class that they represent. So let's do it down the line, and then we'll see you over at the premium, guys. Remember, redvoicemedia.com/Jason. $1 the first week, $10 for a month, or $100 for the year. Rockfin, check out the Making Sense of the Madness stuff. If you're not following me over there, follow me.